Story 1. The night I picked up the wrong Uber rider. I've been driving for Uber full-time for 3 years. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for the man I picked up at 3:13 a.m. last Sunday. It was a slow night. I'd made just under $50 after 6 hours of driving, and I was about to call it quits when a ride request popped up near the edge of the city. A place I normally avoid. Pick up James. Destination: abandoned commercial district. No drop-off address. Weird, but not the first time someone drunk put in the wrong spot. I accepted anyway. When I got to the pickup location, a busted-up gas station with flickering lights, I didn't see anyone. I tapped the app to call the rider, and the call went straight to voicemail. I was about to cancel when someone knocked on the passenger window. A tall, pale man in a black hoodie leaned in. He didn't speak, just pointed to the back seat. I unlocked the doors. He slid in, didn't say a word, and just stared forward like I wasn't even there. I asked, "You James?" Still silent. He slowly raised his phone and showed me the Uber screen. My car, my face, the ride request, all correct. We pulled off. I tried to make small talk like I always do, but he stayed completely still. No eye contact, no response. The only sound was his shallow breathing. And then, I swear, I heard something else. From his coat pocket. Ticking. Like a watch, but louder. Almost mechanical. I glanced at him through the rearview mirror. His eyes were wide now, unblinking, staring at me. I tried to shrug it off. Probably just drunk. Or high. But then, my phone glitched. The Uber app crashed. GPS froze. And suddenly, I wasn't sure where I was driving. There were no street signs. No other cars. Just dim road and forest on both sides. Then, in the mirror, I saw him smile. Barely. He leaned forward and whispered in a dry, cracked voice. "We're almost there." My heart sank. I pulled over and demanded he get out. Told him I was ending the ride. That's when he slowly pulled a photo from his coat pocket. It was a printed Polaroid of me, asleep in my bed. He dropped it onto the passenger seat and got out. No words, no noise. He walked straight into the woods. I floored it and drove until the app finally reset. I went home shaking, barely slept. Later, I called Uber support. There was no record of any rider named James. No trip logged. And I never took that photo of myself. I don't even own a Polaroid camera. I've since installed cameras in my car, changed my locks, and started carrying protection. But I still wonder what would have happened if I just kept driving. Story 2. My Airbnb host tried to trap me in the basement. I've used Airbnb dozens of times, but this was the first time I genuinely feared I wouldn't make it out alive. Back in April, I booked a last-minute Airbnb in a small New England town. I was headed to a wedding, and all the hotels were full. The house looked cozy, old Victorian style, 5-star reviews. The host, Lillian, was a woman in her 60s who lived in the main house while guests stayed in a private unit around back. She greeted me at the door, smiling a little too wide. Her eyes stayed locked on mine a second too long. But I figured she was just eccentric. The guest unit was clean but outdated. Smelled faintly of lavender and mold. Before leaving, she said, "You'll be safe here. No one bothers people once they're in the basement." I laughed awkwardly. "You mean the back unit?" She didn't respond, just turned and walked away. That night I couldn't sleep. There was this faint humming sound coming through the walls, rhythmic, like chanting. And every once in a while, I swear I heard scratching, coming from the floor beneath the bed. I checked under it. Nothing. Just a hatch door I hadn't noticed before, sealed shut with 4 metal latches. The next morning, I asked Lillian about it. Her smile faded. "Don't touch that. It's not for you." That afternoon, I went out for coffee. When I came back, my door was unlocked, and all my things had been moved. Not stolen, just rearranged. My toothbrush was facing the opposite way. My shoes were lined up by color. And my phone, which I had left charging on the desk, was now in the microwave. That night, I barricaded the hatch with a chair. At 2:17 a.m., I woke up to tapping from under the bed. Then something moved. The hatch was open an inch. I jumped up and shoved the chair back on top, but it was being pushed from the inside. I screamed and ran for the main house. Lillian answered in a bathrobe, completely calm. They usually get louder when they know someone new is up there. I left immediately. Later, I looked up the address, and I found this. Back in 2003, the house belonged to a couple who fostered children. They were arrested for keeping kids locked in the basement, some for years. The woman was never charged. Her name? Lillian. I reported the listing to Airbnb. A week later, it was removed. Her account vanished. But I still wonder what would have happened if I hadn't locked that hatch. Or worse, if I had opened it. Story 3. My missing cousin's face appeared on a dating app. I hadn't seen my cousin in 7 months. She went missing without a trace. So why did she suddenly show up on my dating app? Smiling like nothing ever happened. Her name was Emily. 24, smart, beautiful, loved hiking and photography. We were more like siblings growing up. She vanished last November after going on a Tinder date in Oregon. Her phone went dark. No activity on her bank accounts. Police couldn't find a thing. The guy she met claimed she never showed up. Her case went cold. Until last week. I was swiping late at night, not expecting much, when her face popped up on Hinge. Same freckles, same crooked smile, even the same sunflower tattoo on her collarbone. The profile name wasn't Emily. It said Sarah, 25. But the photos were all Emily, pictures I'd never seen before, newer than anything she'd posted before she disappeared. I screenshotted it and messaged the account. Emily? Is that you? No reply. Then, within seconds, the entire profile vanished. I reported it. Then I called the police and gave them the screenshots. But the next day, something worse happened. I got a text. Stop looking. She's mine now. No number. No contact name. Just that one sentence. Then I noticed something else. In one of the profile photos, Emily was holding a phone. The lock screen was visible. It was a photo of me. One I'd posted to Instagram just 3 days ago. How could she have that? I called my parents, freaked out. They said someone had broken into Emily's old apartment the night before. Just took her laptop and photo albums. I didn't sleep that night. Around 3:40 a.m., I heard movement outside my window. I live on the second floor, mind you. No balcony, no access. But when I pulled the curtain back, there was a Polaroid taped to the glass. A photo of me sleeping, taken from inside my room. I called the cops. They found no sign of forced entry. Just that same text message again on my phone. She's mine now. I haven't been back home since. I check the dating apps obsessively now, afraid of who might show up next. Emily is still missing, but every now and then, a new profile appears. Always with her face, always under a different name. And every time I report it, another photo of me shows up. Story 4. I took a job cleaning out foreclosed homes. One basement wasn't empty. The job listing said, clean out abandoned homes. Good pay. No questions asked. I should have asked questions. I started working for this guy named Ray. Ran a small property cleanup business in upstate New York. He bought up foreclosed homes dirt cheap, paid people like me to go in, clean them out, and prep them for auction. It was easy money. Dust, trash, maybe the occasional dead mouse. Until we got the call about the old Renshaw house. Local kids said it was haunted. I didn't believe in that crap, but I should have. When I pulled up, the place was boarded up, windows smashed, front yard overgrown. The electricity was dead. I had to use a flashlight. The whole house smelled like old wood and mildew. And something else, like metal or blood. There were weird things all over. Scratched walls, broken furniture with bite marks, rotting food on the floor. And then I heard it, breathing, coming from the basement. I called Ray, told him someone might still be living down there. He just laughed. If they're down there, they've been there a while. Do your job. So like an idiot, I did. The basement door was nailed shut with a chain and padlock. Like someone was keeping something inside, not out. The air got colder as I pried it open. The stairs creaked like they hadn't been used in years. At the bottom was a large, empty space with concrete floors and a mattress stained and torn, chains bolted to the walls, deep claw marks along the support beams. And then I saw it. In the corner, crouched behind a water heater, a man, or what used to be a man, naked, pale, bones jutting through skin. His eyes were milky white, like he hadn't seen light in years. He didn't move at first, just stared at me, head tilted. Then he screamed, the most inhuman, broken scream I've ever heard, like a child and an animal combined. I ran up the stairs, slammed the door, wrapped the chain back through the handle, and drove like hell out of there. I called Ray again, freaking out. He was calm. That's just Frank. Ignore him. House still needs to be cleaned. That was the last time I worked for him. I quit the next day and called the police anonymously. But when they investigated, they said the basement was empty. No chains, no mattress, no man. Just one thing they found on the floor. Polaroid photo of me standing at the top of the basement stairs. Story 5. I matched with a girl who had died 2 years ago. I never believed in ghosts. But after this Tinder match, I can't explain what happened without thinking about the dead. A few weeks ago, I was swiping late at night, half asleep and bored. I matched with this girl named Cassie. She had this vintage vibe, black and white photos, high cheekbones, that old Hollywood kind of beauty. I thought maybe it was a filter or a themed profile. She messaged first, "You look familiar." I replied, "Maybe we've met before in another life." She answered instantly, "Maybe we did. Want to go for a drive tonight?" It was almost midnight, but she sent her address, just a few towns over. Against my better judgment, I said yes. When I pulled up to the address, it was this abandoned farmhouse, totally overgrown, no lights. Looked like it hadn't been lived in for decades. I texted her, "I think I've got the wrong address?" She replied, "No, come in through the back." I parked on the road and walked up the gravel path. The back door was slightly open, creaked as I stepped inside. The house smelled like dust, rot, and something sour. The floors were warped, wallpaper peeled from the walls. I called out, "Cassie?" No answer, just silence and a faint sound like music. Old jazz, coming from somewhere upstairs. I followed it. At the top of the stairs was a room with the door cracked open. Inside, a vinyl record spun slowly on a dusty turntable. And there she was, standing by the window, wearing the same dress from her profile picture. She turned to look at me. Her eyes were black, not just dark, fully black. No whites, no pupils, just empty voids. Then she smiled and disappeared, gone, like smoke. I ran out of that house and didn't stop until I reached the car. The next day, I looked up the property. That house had burned down 2 years ago. The girl who lived there, Cassandra May, died in the fire. Her photo, same girl from Tinder, same dress, same pose, but there was no profile anymore. No record of the messages, like she never existed. Only one thing was left, a new message on my phone that night. "I remember you now. You didn't save me." Story 6. I found a hidden room behind the mirror at my motel. The mirror in my motel bathroom didn't seem right. Felt like something was behind it, watching. I wish I'd never found out what it really was. I was on a solo road trip through the Midwest, just trying to clear my head after a breakup. It was late, raining hard, and I pulled into the first cheap motel I could find, Mason Pines Inn. There were no other cars in the lot, but the front desk guy gave me a key to room 103. He didn't smile, just said, "Don't touch the bathroom mirror." I laughed it off, thought it was just some weird small-town superstition. The room was outdated but clean enough. But the bathroom, the second I stepped inside, something felt off. The mirror wasn't like a normal motel mirror. It had thick bolts on each corner, like it had been sealed in. The edges were scratched. There were fingernail marks in the metal frame, like someone tried to pry it off. That night, I heard a faint tapping, like knuckles on glass, coming from the bathroom. When I turned on the light, The mirror had a handprint on the inside of the glass. From behind, I opened the bathroom cabinet. Nothing unusual. Then I noticed the wall behind the mirror was deeper than it should have been. I knocked. Hollow. I grabbed my pocket knife and started prying at one of the bolts. It took almost an hour, but eventually, I pulled the mirror away. Behind it was a small, dark crawl space. Dust everywhere. Cobwebs. And in the center, a mattress covered in old sheets. Next to it, camera, still blinking red. I reached inside and pulled it out. It was wired to a power source, still recording. There were hundreds of video files stored. The file names were all dates. When I clicked one, it was footage from inside the mirror. You could see the bathroom, the beds, and the people who had stayed there, unaware they were being watched. But the worst part? Some of the videos ended with the guests being taken, dragged out of bed by something or someone from the crawl space. One showed a woman screaming before vanishing behind the mirror. Another showed a man tied to the chair I had been sitting in just hours earlier. I returned the mirror and left it the way I found it. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I went to the front desk. The man was gone. Office empty. Computer smashed. I called the police anonymously. A week later, I checked online. The motel had been shut down, but not because of what I found, because they never found the front desk man again, or any record of who owned the motel in the first place. Story 7. My friend's Snapchat story showed him after he died. He died in a car crash 3 days ago. So how the hell did he just post a Snapchat story with footage that couldn't exist? My friend Daniel passed away in a car accident last week. A drunk driver ran a red light and hit him head-on. It was instant. He was declared dead at the scene. I saw the crash site. I went to the wake. He was gone. So imagine the panic I felt when I saw a Snapchat notification from him just 3 days later. Daniel just posted a story. I froze. His account had been inactive since the day he died. I hadn't unfriended him. I couldn't bring myself to. With shaking hands, I opened the app. And there it was. A new story. Just 8 seconds long. It was dark video, grainy, like it was filmed on an old phone. He was sitting in a room I didn't recognize. Pale, quiet, wide-eyed. The only light came from a flickering TV behind him. He looked terrified. He whispered something, barely audible. I turned up the volume, heart pounding. It's not over. I can still see you. Then it cut to black. I thought maybe it was a glitch. Someone hacked his account. But the next part chilled me to the core. I replayed the video, trying to screenshot it, and saw something I hadn't noticed the first time. In the reflection of the TV screen behind him was me, standing in the background, in the clothes I was wearing right then. I jumped up, looked around my room. Nothing. I checked the doors. Locked. Windows too. I tried to message his account, no reply. The story disappeared after the 24-hour mark like normal. But that night, another notification popped up. Daniel is typing. Then nothing. I told his parents. They looked at me like I was insane. Said his phone had been destroyed in the crash. It was found under the hood in pieces. That night, I heard a ding. A new snap from Daniel. This time it was just a photo, taken outside my bedroom window. And in the background, barely visible in the shadows, was Daniel. Still pale. Still watching. Still here. Story 8. I took a forest trail that isn't on any map. I've hiked these woods my whole life. But last month, I found a trail I'd never seen before. And I wasn't the first to take it. There's a nature preserve near my town in Oregon. Locals love it. Miles of clean trails, no traffic, no tourists. I go hiking there at least twice a month. But this time was different. I was about 4 miles into a familiar loop when I saw a new path, narrow, winding, just off the main trail. It wasn't marked, and I knew this park inside out. There were no signs, no footprints. Just a wooden post at the entrance that said, "No return." I thought it was some kind of art installation, maybe a joke, so I stepped onto it. Immediately, the air felt heavier. The trees grew closer together. My cell signal vanished. I walked for maybe 10 minutes when I noticed something strange. No animals. No birds, no insects, total silence. Then I saw something hanging from a branch. A backpack, moldy, torn, with a driver's license still inside. The name? Jason Avery. My blood ran cold. Jason Avery was a high school senior who'd gone missing 2 years ago, in this very park. I took out my phone to photograph the ID, but the screen was frozen. Dead. Then I heard footsteps. Behind me, slow, heavy. I turned. Nothing there. But then I saw something further down the trail. A wooden sign, nailed to a tree. It read, "He never left." That's when I noticed there were dozens of carvings in the bark around it. Names, dates, and messages like, "Still here," and "Don't follow the light." I turned to run, but the trail was gone. I spun in circles. There was no path anymore, just trees. Wall after wall of trees. That's when I heard it. A voice, my own voice, coming from deeper in the forest, calling for help, repeating phrases I'd said earlier that day. My laughter, my breathing, something was mimicking me. Then I saw it. A figure, same height as me, same face, walking toward me from between the trees. I bolted. I don't remember how long I ran, or how I found the main trail again. But when I burst out of the woods, it was sunrise. I'd been gone for almost 10 hours. I reported everything. The authorities found nothing. No trail, no backpack, no sign. But I've seen it since. Every time I hike now, I catch a glimpse of that NO return post, just beyond the corner of my eye. And sometimes, I hear myself calling from deep in the trees. Story 9. I got hired to babysit, but the parents lied about the house being empty. They told me the house was big, old, and quiet, but they didn't mention the man watching from the attic. Last month, I found a babysitting gig on a local Facebook group. Easy money, 2 nights a week, 6 p.m. to 11 p.m., while the couple went out for dinner. They had one daughter, 6 years old, and lived in this big farmhouse about 20 minutes outside of town. They said the girl, Ellie, was a little quiet but sweet, and the house might make noises since it was old. No big deal. The first night, Ellie was shy but polite. She barely said a word, just drew pictures and watched cartoons. Around 9 p.m., she went to bed, and I sat downstairs scrolling TikTok. Then I heard footsteps from upstairs. I went up to check on Ellie. She was asleep, room quiet, but I noticed something weird. Her closet door was open, and inside were 3 baby monitors stacked on a shelf. None of them were plugged in, and all of them were pointed at the same spot, the attic hatch in the hallway ceiling. I ignored it, went back downstairs. At 10:43 p.m., Ellie came downstairs, crying. "He's watching again," she whispered. I asked, "Who?" She just pointed upward and said, "The man in the attic." I froze. I tried calling the parents, but the call dropped. Then I heard thudding, like someone walking across the floor above us. I called the cops. They arrived in 12 minutes. I told them everything. They searched the house. In the attic, they found a makeshift bed, candy wrappers, empty soda bottles, and photos of Ellie, sleeping, eating, playing, all taken through holes drilled in the ceiling from above. The man was gone, but he had been living there for weeks, maybe months. I confronted the parents the next day, furious. They broke down, said they knew that Ellie used to say strange things, talk about a man no one else could see. They thought it was imaginary, until they started finding their own things moved. Their dogs stopped going upstairs. Their bedroom door would open during the night, but they were too scared to leave, too embarrassed to tell anyone. So they hired a babysitter to see if it was real. They used me as bait. I never babysat again. Story 10. I answered a DoorDash order. The customer was already dead. It was a normal night shift, until I knocked on a door and someone answered. From inside a house no one had lived in for weeks. I deliver for DoorDash to pay my bills. Most nights are boring. Fast food, long waits, weird instructions. This one was different. I got an order around 11:30 p.m. Late night tacos to a residential neighborhood I'd never been to. Address: 1456 Harrow Lane. The app marked it as a leave at door order, which is common. But the note said, "Please knock once. I'll be waiting." Creepy. But whatever. When I got to the house, something felt off immediately. The porch light was out, the grass was overgrown, and there were old newspapers stacked by the door, like no one had touched the place in weeks. I knocked once, like the note said. The door opened a few inches. No creak, just a silent swing inward. A woman's voice called from inside, "Leave it on the table. I'm just upstairs." I peeked through the crack. There was a small table in the entryway, so I placed the bag down and left. The next night, I got another order. Same address, same note, same quiet voice from upstairs. This time, something made me pause. I checked the app's delivery history. The order was placed from a prepaid card. No user photo, no tip, just blank. I knocked again, and the door swung open like before. But this time, there was no voice. I called out, "Your food's here." Nothing. I stepped inside, just a little. Enough to see that the tacos I delivered last night were still there. Untouched. Cold. Mold starting to grow on the cheese. And then I saw it, on the far wall near the stairs. A flyer. It was a missing person notice. Samantha Gray, 29 years old. Reported missing 3 weeks ago. Last seen at this address. I left immediately and reported it to DoorDash and the police. Turns out, the house had been vacant since Samantha disappeared. The power was shut off. No one had lived there since the investigation started. But here's the part no one can explain. The security camera in my car caught audio when I made that first delivery. The door did open. The voice was real. It said, "I'm upstairs." And when the cops searched the house again, they found something new. A phone, still unlocked, still logged into the DoorDash customer app. And in the drafts folder was a scheduled order. To me, for next Friday. Story 11. I rented a storage unit. Something was already inside. I just needed extra space. But the unit I rented came with more than dust and boxes. It came with a warning carved in blood. I moved into a smaller apartment last month, so I rented a cheap storage unit on the edge of town. The facility was 24/7, no security, no staff after 6 p.m., just rows of metal doors and silence. My unit was B17, pretty normal looking until I opened it. Inside, in the back corner, was a small wooden trunk. No markings, just a rusty padlock. I went to the front office to report it, but the guy at the desk just shrugged. "We clean 'em between renters. Should have been empty. Toss it if you want." So I brought it home. The trunk was heavy, like something solid was inside. I cut off the lock with bolt cutters and opened it. Inside was a wedding dress, stained dark red, and a handwritten note, faded and torn. "Do not open this trunk after midnight, or she'll know you saw her." I thought it was a prank, some horror-obsessed teenager's idea of a joke. So I left it in the corner of my apartment and forgot about it. That night, I woke up at 12:46 a.m. to the sound of dragging. I sat up. The trunk was open. The dress was gone. I looked around the room. Nothing. Then I turned on my phone flashlight and saw it. Long, wet footprints across the carpet, leading from the trunk to my bedroom door. I locked myself in the bathroom and called the police. When they arrived, they searched the place. No signs of forced entry. Trunk was empty. No footprints. No dress. They said I must have had a nightmare. But on my phone, there was a selfie in my camera roll. One I didn't take. Me, asleep. And standing in the background, inches from my face, was a woman in a tattered wedding dress. Smiling. Story 12. My Ring camera caught someone whispering my name. I live alone. So when my phone notified me at 3:13 a.m. that my front door camera heard someone whisper Ethan, I knew something was wrong. No one should know my name. I installed a Ring doorbell camera after a package was stolen. Quiet neighborhood. Cul-de-sac. Never had a problem before. Last Friday night, I stayed up late gaming with noise-canceling headphones on. Around 3 a.m., I got a notification. Audio event. Human voice detected. 3:13 a.m. Weird. No motion, just audio. I opened the app. The footage was dark. Street empty. But then, after a few seconds of static, whispering, "Ethan, let me in." I froze. Nobody calls me Ethan except my mom. I used a different name online. It wasn't a prank. I hadn't told anyone about the camera. I rewound the video. This time I noticed something new. Breathing. Slow, wet, like someone struggling to hold it in. Then again, "Ethan, I know you're awake." I jumped up, turned on all the lights, checked every window, every door. Nothing. Next morning, I checked the footage again. This time, the whisper wasn't at the door. It was right next to the camera microphone. Meaning, someone's face had been right against my door, out of view of the lens. The kicker? When I zoomed in on the reflection in my front window across the street, I saw a silhouette, something tall, thin, leaning into my door. Not standing, bent backward, like its limbs weren't put on right. And the mouth? It didn't move like a human's. It stretched wide, too wide, until the jaw looked broken. The audio was real, but whoever, whatever, whispered my name. They knew I was inside, awake, watching, and they still come back. Every night since. Story 13. I rented a basement apartment. I wasn't alone down there. I just needed a cheap place to live. But I never expected the thing living in the walls. When I moved to Oregon for grad school, I couldn't afford much. I found a basement studio on Craigslist. Half the price of anything else. No windows, but clean and quiet. The landlord was an older woman named Grace. She lived upstairs. She was polite but odd. When she gave me the keys, she said, "You'll hear noises sometimes. Just ignore them. Old pipes." The first night, I chalked it up to settling sounds. But it wasn't the pipes. At exactly 2:11 a.m., I heard something scratch behind my bed. Not from the floor, from the wall. I banged on it. Silence. The next night, it came again. This time, louder. Masquerade. Tap, tap, tap. I moved my bed away from the wall. The scratching followed, behind my dresser, then behind the kitchenette. It was tracking me. On the fourth night, I shoved a towel under the door and left the light on. I fell asleep with headphones in. I woke up at 3:02 a.m. to silence. My headphones had died. Then I heard it again. A whisper. Not in the wall, inside the room. "You're not the first one." I sat up. My lamp was off. My door was still locked. I flicked on my phone light and saw muddy handprints on the ceiling, leading to the air vent. I confronted Grace that morning. She didn't act surprised. "I shouldn't have rented it again. He doesn't like guests." She told me her brother had lived down there years ago. A paranoid recluse who vanished after claiming something was in the walls. They never found his body. But sometimes, late at night, she said, she hears him talking to her through the floorboards. He always did like new people. I moved out that day, but I still wake up at 2:11 a.m. to scratching in my bedroom wall, even though I live in an apartment now on the 3rd floor. Story 14. My friend sent me a voice note after she died. It started as a group chat. Then we got a message from someone who shouldn't have been alive. My best friend Tessa died in a car crash last spring. It was brutal, hit head-on by a drunk driver. Closed casket funeral, the whole thing. A few weeks after her death, our old high school group chat randomly lit up. Someone had added Tessa's number back in. We all thought it was some glitch, or maybe her parents reactivated the number, until she sent a voice message. It was 17 seconds long. Static. A faint rustling sound. Then her voice, whispering like it was coming from a tunnel. "I'm still here. You forgot me." Everyone freaked out. One of the guys left the chat. The rest of us tried to call the number, no answer. It just rang endlessly. Then we got another message the next night. This time it was a video. Dark room. Just a dim ceiling fan spinning slowly. The camera angle was wrong, as if someone was lying under a bed, recording from below. In the corner, you could faintly see someone's feet dangling just above the floor. Then static again, a distorted scream, and Tessa's voice, clear this time. "You laughed at me. You left me. I'm coming back." I started getting calls at 2:03 a.m. every night. No caller ID, just static on the other end. One night I picked up. All I heard was the same whisper. Under your bed. I didn't sleep that night. I watched my bed the entire time, flashlight in hand. Nothing happened until I checked my phone in the morning. There was a voice recording saved to my files, not from any app one use. The timestamp was 3:04 a.m. Played it. It was me sleeping. You could hear my breathing. Then a second breath layered over mine. Someone else was in the room. And then her voice, inches from the mic. You should have died instead. I moved out of my apartment, changed my number, blocked everything. But the voice messages still come. And each one starts with the same line. You forgot me. Story 15. The delivery driver knew my name, but I never ordered anything. He handed me the food, smiled, and whispered my full name, but I never gave him my address. I live alone in a gated apartment complex. You can't get in without a keycard or someone buzzing you through. It was a rainy Thursday evening when the intercom buzzed. A guy said he was here with a food delivery, but I hadn't ordered anything. I checked the app, no recent orders. I even checked DoorDash, Uber Eats, Postmates. Nothing. When I asked who placed the order, he just said, "It's already paid. Come get it before it gets cold." Against my better judgment, I buzzed him in. Maybe it was a kind neighbor or a mistake. A minute later, there was a knock at my door. I opened it slowly. The man was standing there, soaked, holding a plain brown paper bag. No logo. He wasn't wearing a uniform, just a wet hoodie, and he looked blank. No emotion. Then he said my full name, middle name included. That froze me. I never used my full name online, not even on food apps. How do you know my name? I asked. He just smiled, handed me the bag, and walked away without another word. I slammed the door and locked every bolt. When I opened the bag, there was no food, just a burner phone, powered on. One contact, no messages. The contact was saved as "see you soon." I threw the phone away immediately and called the police. They said no one had been seen on surveillance at the front gate. No delivery, no person, no car. Even more disturbing, they pulled the digital logs from the keycard gate. No one had entered. The doorbell rang again that night. This time I didn't open it. I just watched from the peephole. It was him again, smiling, holding another phone, and whispering, "You shouldn't have thrown it away."